Oh, there's some deer. Whoa. And there's the sun. Ah, such a beautiful morning. I'm loving it. Air is fresh, a little crisp, smells really nice. I just love being out on these trails. Hey, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please subscribe and of course give the video a like and drop a comment down below. I'd like to know what you think of the Altra Experience Wild. We are reviewing this shoe today, and yeah, I've got some thoughts to share with you. The word of the day is adequate. We'll come back to that. I'd like to thank Altra for sending me these pair of shoes, but know that all thoughts and opinions are strictly my own. I'd also like to encourage you to consider joining the channel membership. It's only $1 per month. You'll have access to early release videos like this one, or member only content, but mostly it just goes to support the channel, and I appreciate your support. All right, so I'm gonna continue making my way up the hill here. In the meantime, voiceover Chad, why don't you tell us about some of the specs and features of the Altra Experience Wild?
Altra states, take off on your next trail run in a shoe that is lightweight, grippy, and performance focused to experience just how effortless the dirt can feel. The Experience Wild is a whole different breed of trail shoe, raised to take on miles of rolling terrain or fast tempo trail runs to steep summit views. And between you and I think that description is a little generous, but we'll take it, and it is what it is. As for some of those specs, you get a standard foot shape fit, an EVA midsole foam, engineered mesh upper, Max Track outsole, which looks to have 5mm, maybe 6mm lugs, rocker shape for an efficient toe off, 32mm of heel stack, 28mm of toe stack, and it's worth noting in the women's shoe you get 30mm of heel, 26mm of toe stack. For a 4mm drop, weighing in at 283 grams or 10 ounces in a men's size 9, and a US MSRP of $145. It's also worth stating that all the B-roll footage you're about to see was recorded after this run, so you're seeing the shoe in its true form. All right, Chad, back over to you.
Thanks, voiceover Chad. So now let's talk about the build quality, the comfort, the performance, and the value of the shoe, and whether I would recommend the shoe for you or not. The Experience Wild will feel at home if you're already familiar with the Experience lineup. The Altra Forward Experience, their road going shoe, which is really identical to the Experience Flow and the Experience Form, are some road shoes that I've quite enjoyed, at least for those daily miles. And if you like the Experience lineup, then you'll really feel at home in the Experience Wild. However, I kind of like the road going variants a little more than this trail version. I'll share some more thoughts when I get to the performance of the shoe. As for build and overall build quality of the shoe, I think Altra has improved a lot over the years, and while the Experience Wild doesn't have anything super fancy or rugged about the build, I do feel that the build is pretty good overall. I have no complaints with that Max Track outsole. Seems like it'll last a pretty good amount of time. The compressed EVA midsole is nothing to write home about, but it's adequate. There's that word. And it gets the job done. It does feel fairly soft to help absorb those impacts, and I think it'll last the life of the shoe. I would assume 400 to 450 miles or so. The quality of the upper is also nice. They used a thicker material than in the other Experience road going shoes, so it's a little bit more durable. You get some nice overlays and additional protective elements around the eyelet chain where the shoelaces tie in, as well as in the toe cap. And speaking of the toe cap, you do get a nice structured protective layer up front. Let me show you. So right here at the front of the toes, it's nice and structured, so if you accidentally hit a rock, that's not gonna be too problematic. I mentioned the overlays, as you can see in that extra textured layers there. So pretty nice there. You don't get much structure in the heel. I don't feel any sort of plastic component inside of the shoe, but that doesn't mean that's a problem. Now, in the handful of runs that I've had the shoe out for, again, build quality, I think it's gonna be just fine, totally adequate. So really no concerns. I'm gonna give the build quality an 8 out of 10. Now moving on to the comfort, I kind of started to get into it. I really enjoyed the experience, flow and experience form road going shoes, as well as the forward experience. And I can definitely feel from a comfort perspective, the same features that came over into the Wild. The midsole feels very familiar, so it's pretty soft. Feels nice and cushioned underfoot. And while that midsole feels fine on the road, on the trails, yes, it absorbs your foot strike and it feels soft underfoot, especially on a downhill section like this. Your heel just kind of sinks into the shoe and gets absorbed. So it's nice and soft from that perspective. But sometimes on some of these rocks, I feel them protrude up through the midsole and through the outsole, and I feel them underfoot. And of course, that's not the most comfortable. It's been weird because sometimes I feel like the underfoot feeling is adequate. So there's that word again, getting the job done and doing just fine. And then at other times, I feel like I'm getting almost too much feedback from what's underfoot. So it's almost like the shoe can't make up its mind, or maybe I can't make up my mind on what the underfoot feeling is going to be. Just seems to be a little inconsistent. Other than that, the midsole feels pretty comfortable, but at the same time, it's just a standard EVA foam. I do wish that Altra went with their Ego Max midsole. I think that would have balanced cushioned and responsiveness really well together, or better. The standard EVA foam is nothing really to write home about. Yeah, it gets the job done. So again, it's adequate. Comfort of the upper is overall pretty nice. The tongue is nice and plush, almost at a detriment. So it makes it a little easy to over tighten the shoe or the laces because the tongue is so soft. Altra's standard fit, so not their really wide original fit, but certainly still wider than most other shoes on the market. Not only do you get a nice plush tongue, but around the ankle and heel, you get some really nice soft padding back there. At first, it almost seems like too much, and when you first put your foot into the shoe, it feels like the padding around the ankle is gonna be felt or intrusive and almost too low in the shoe. But once you get your foot in and you start running, you don't notice it, and it really helps to keep things comfortable around your ankle and heel and helps to lock in your heel in place. I mentioned that there's not a lot of structure around that heel, but that is totally okay and fine. In my book, around the foot, I feel like my foot is locked in and secured mostly in place. However, on some downhill, more technical sections, I do wish that the shoe had a little bit more structure around the midfoot. I think that would just help hold my foot in place. I could feel my foot kind of moving to the front of the shoe on some downhill sections, so my toes would kind of reach the end of the shoe. It never presented itself as a problem, but it was noticed. Other than that, when it comes to comfort, the upper fabric is pretty nice and adapts with your foot strike and foot movement, and just overall pretty comfortable. Again, nothing that really stands out. It just is kind of, well, adequate. So it gets the job done, but there's certainly nothing to really complain about. All right, I think that's enough about comfort. Let me know if you have any questions or if I missed anything. As for comfort, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Moving on to performance. Okay, so this is where that word of the day, adequate, really comes into play. And Altra, please don't hate me for saying this, because I really want to continue to review your shoes, but I gotta be honest. The Experience Wild is kind of like that employee that shows up on time, they're there every day, and they do their job, but there's nothing that really stands out about them or their work. That's kind of how I feel about the Experience Wild. It's there, it's reliable, you can get the job done, you can expect to get the job done, but it's just nothing that stands out about the shoe, nothing that really inspires. It's just adequate. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but in today's competitive market, you really need to do something that makes your shoe shine, makes it stand out. Now, starting with the outsole, that MaxTrack rubber actually is doing a better job than I thought it would. So that did surprise me, although it's not as good as like a Vibram outsole. That compressed EVA midsole is soft, but it's not really inspiring on the run. This is not the type of shoe that I take out when I want to have a more spirited or memorable experience, but it does offer some good cushioning and keeps things comfortable even over a longer run. The upper is also adequate. Again, it gets the job done. Nothing to complain about, but nothing that makes you go, oh wow, or ooh, that's neat. I do enjoy Altra's standard fit, so my toes feel like they have enough room to splay out. I feel like there's good blood flow in my foot and allowing me to continue to perform mile after mile. I feel like my foot is held in place pretty securely, especially around the heel and the ankle. Around the midfoot, it's adequate, but I do feel that the performance of that midfoot fit would improve if it was a gusseted tongue, fully gusseted, and if the tongue had a little bit more dense padding, not more plush padding, but actually less padding, but a slightly more dense padding. I feel like that would help the laces lock in around your foot without providing or allowing extra or excess movement of your foot. I hope I'm making sense here. Also feel like the upper material could have been a little thinner, a little bit more breathable, but maybe not sacrifice durability either. Maybe add some TPU overlays to help add some structure and performance durability to the shoe. The shoe weighs in at about 283 grams, I believe. That doesn't make it a lightweight shoe. Certainly doesn't make it heavy, but it doesn't feel necessarily lightweight underfoot. It feels a little, it doesn't feel clunky, but I don't feel like it's encouraging me to pick up my pace or get up into my toes at all. Again, it's just kind of there. It allows me to get the job done. I can go uphill, downhill, whatever, no problem, but it doesn't really inspire me to do more while I'm out on my run. All right, so we're dropping down to where the stream is. Let's give the shoe a water test and see how it does soaked in water. Whew, that water is cold. Whew, it's cold on my feet. All right, they are nice and soaked. Let's make it up this hill, go up to the top of the ridge there, and see how the shoes do in the wet. It feels like I just put a bunch of sponges on my feet. Squish, 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 squish. Last thing that I'll mention about performance before I mention how the water's doing is around the midsole and the midfoot. Let me show you. So the way they design that midsole is that it flares out on both sides. So it does offer a nice stable platform. It's almost maybe a little bulky, but it gets the job done to help provide some good stable footing underfoot. All right, was the water test successful? not really. The sock liner inside the shoe seems like it wants to hold on to that water. The upper also held on to some water, although it is drying out, but I can feel that there's a lot of water still retained kind of up near the toes in the shoe. So it's kind of weighing down the shoe, and I can still feel my feet squishing around in that water inside the shoe. So yeah, not really too ideal for water crossings. So how would I rate the performance of the Experience Wild? Well, if I was in grade school, I would give it a passing grade, but barely passing. So for this review, I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10. Again, barely passing, adequate, gets the job done, but doesn't leave a memorable impression on you. Ooh, there's a deer. So moving on to the value of the Ultra Experience Wild, I would say for $145 US MSRP, that's in line with what a lot of trail shoes are at today, but I don't think that's a good price for this shoe. There are too many other really good shoes in that same price point, plus or minus $5, that I would recommend. Again, I think you're getting a shoe that will get the job done, and if you really like the Experience road going shoes, so the Forward Experience or the Experience Flow or Experience Form, then the Experience Wild will feel at home. I just feel like for $145, I'm gonna want a shoe that encourages me, inspires me to go out on the trails, a shoe that I look forward to running in next time. And I just don't get that feeling in the Experience Wild. My shoes are like squeaking, squishing. Can you hear that? My shoes are squishing under each footstep. It's making me laugh from the water. Squish, 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 squish. So value, I'm gonna give it a 6.5, maybe a 7 out of 10. So do I recommend the shoe? Well, if you're looking for a shoe that is adequate, then sure, I recommend the Experience Wild. If you're looking for a shoe that's a little more inspiring and stands out a little bit more, then I wouldn't recommend it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you run in the Experience Wild? Is this a shoe you're considering or you're interested in? Let me know your thoughts, your experience down in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions, of course, drop those down below as well, and I'll be sure to answer them because I'm sure there's something I forgot to mention in this video. By the way, did anyone notice that the shoes match my shirt? Drop a comment if you saw the matching outfit. All right, I think that's all I have for you on this beautiful morning. Please, again, subscribe if you're not subscribed and you made it this far in the video. I've got a lot more content coming your way, some more shoe and gear reviews, some ultras, some runs. Anyways, great stuff coming to the channel, but you gotta be subscribed and hit that bell to receive those notifications. And before I start rambling on, let's end the video. Appreciate you for being here. Remember to be consistent, express gratitude, and enjoy every mile as I have today in the Ultra Experience Wild. All right, see you on the next one. Bye. I was talking so much about the shoe, I forgot to eat something. No wonder why I was starting to feel a little hungry. Untapped maple syrup, pretty delicious. Go to the feed, check out my affiliate link in the pinned comment or the description down below. and you can get a $15 credit, spend on whatever you want at thefeed.com. All right, enough of that plug. See you later. Always got to come back for the camera.